So there is, of course, a continuing resolution. There's always a continuing resolution. Congress only has one constitutionally prescribed job. I mean, that's not true. They have to defend the Constitution, etc. But one constitutionally prescribed thing they have to do, they shall create a budget. They shall. But they don't. They issue a series of continuing resolutions because they do not want to go through the process of creating a budget, because budgets carry with it accountability. So in this 1,500-page monstrosity they've been talking about, that no one has time to read except for the distributed intelligence of social media, people are paging the bill apart, and they've come across Section 605. I'm about to tell you about Section 605 and how it's going to affect Donald Trump's ability to get justice out of this corrupt Congress. We'll compare that to a statement from Chris Murphy, a backbench U.S. Senator who had some inspiration for a conversation about health care. He's inspired by that to share, but not inspired to let us see behind the scenes into what Congress has done. Behind the scenes stuff can be so very interesting. I just got a note from my friend Steve Anderson, who's the managing director, managing partner of Renew Healthcare. 3 couples went there in November. 3 fantastic outcomes. And I'm cooking up a trip back down there. This time, if we go do a wellcation, we're going to give a lot more time in planning so we get a lot more people down. We didn't give much time in planning last time. Had a great time. Got to make great viewers and listeners. But there are 3 friends of mine who are thinking going down. One of them is Zach Abraham, who you know comes on our show once a week. He wants to get the infusion of stem cells. The infusion is probably the most expensive process, and it attacks inflammation throughout your bodies. These stem cells that are ethically gathered from umbilical cords and placentas, they search your body for any hot spots. If there's cartilage that needs to be rebuilt, it can do that. Tendon, muscle, it does that. But it destroys inflammation across the body. That's what Zach is looking at. Another friend of mine blew up his knee. I've been asking you to pray for him. He's called the wrestler. That's not completely blown up, but it looks like the beginning of a cartilage tear. At our age, and he's my age, in our mid-50s, cartilage isn't likely to grow back. These stem cells can grow it back. So he's looking at having that done. And then a friend of mine, I'll call Andy. Andy's had a problem with jumper's knee forever. Now it's just knee. So we're all looking at going down my thing, lower back. I made the mistake of wrestling my much younger, much stronger, much more athletic, better looking, smarter, and more godly friend, Ben. I got the first 3 takedowns, and he figured me out and crushed me, hurt me. Oh, yeah, he's my sports med doc, so there's that. So maybe he should fix me. Hey, Ben, maybe I should get a you hurt me discount. So we're all thinking about going down for these very different reasons. Why would I suggest this to my friends if I didn't know it worked? Go to renew.healthcare and ask them if they can replace your cartilage so you don't need to have surgery. Go down and see if they can fix your lower back so you don't need to be in pain and on meds. It's simple. Go to Renew, RENUE.healthcare. That's RENUE.healthcare. In the many situations where Congress has abandoned us and where they have been traitors, one is the easiest to track. Congress shall create a budget. That's what the Constitution gives them as a provisioned duty. But that's hard. Because when you create a budget, you actually have to do some forecasting. So instead of creating a budget, which is harder to pass, which you build from the ground up, they've done a considerable series of continuing resolutions. And the game works like this. If it's a continuing resolution, it's easier to pass. We just assume there's always going to be a growth in government spending. We just let everybody in the bureaucracies know, hey, just come in, plan on a 15% growth rate. We're going to fight in that. We're going to say, we've cut the budget. And you know this game. Well, these bureaucrats have come in asking for a 15% increase. We've cut that down. We're a real fiscal conservatives. We've cut it down to 12%. We're shaving it. And then they have these stage dramas where the bureaucrats fight about, we just can't get it done at this level, like Angelo Mayorkas. I didn't even care to say his name correctly. The impeached boss man of the DHS. We don't have enough money to secure the border. Meanwhile, Joe Biden is out auctioning off the parts of the wall that he knows President Trump's going to use. Now, that's macro fraud. We can all look at that and the fact that we have a $330 trillion deficit because that's the reality. That's actually what we have. And it's not the $30 trillion because if you take unfunded liabilities, that's a macro fraud. They're about to take within the macro fraud of the 1,500-page resolution, they've been talking about this, or continuing resolution, is hidden a micro fraud of enormous proportion in Section 605. Who does this? Congress, in this section, is giving itself perpetual possession of all House data. So think about this. A Gmail touches a House member. They own it. An Instagram account, they own it. An official Twitter channel, they own it. Or an unofficial Twitter channel but accessed on congressional Wi-Fi or on a congressional device. They own it. All House data, they own. Well, wait a minute. Who owns them? Try this in your place of employment. Your boss comes and says, hey, I need to see your emails on this. We're trying to track down what went wrong. Oh, sorry, I can't give this to you. I own them. No. I mean, I'm talking about the emails you produced using my computer in my office during the time of day I paid you on a project for which you're paid. Yeah, like I said, boss, I own those, so I'm not giving them to you. This is exactly what Congress is doing to us. You don't get to see our emails. You don't get to see any of our phone calls, any of our Zoom meetings. That's ours. It's our data. Well, wait a minute. Ownership doesn't mean that you don't get to look at it, though, Todd. Okay. Also in Section 605 is this. If you go to a court, or let's say just for instance, a literally orange Hitler gets into office, like it's going to happen on January 20th and 21st. 20th is the inauguration day. President Trump's first day in office, the 21st. Literal orange Hitler walks in, and his Department of Justice says, you know what, we'd like to look into some things. There was this $300 million payment that many bureaucracies made to Reuters. Oh, did you hear about this? Now, I have known that this has been going on. If you've been watching the podcast or listening to the radio show, you know I've been saying for about 8 years, there's going to come a time where we finally track the money from the government to the news agencies. It's been clear as day from a form of pattern recognition that they're all telling the same story from the government that could be ideology, but it goes so far above that. Then there's this. The revenues. Their audiences are shrinking, but somehow they can continue to pay Jake Tapper all this money. They can continue to pay Joy Behar all this money. Have you seen her house? One of her houses? So as revenue declines, they pay the so-called talent all this much more money. I've been saying from a pattern recognition perspective, someone's getting some money in the back end. So we've been able to track down $300 million that apparently went to Reuters through government agencies. Oh, certainly that didn't affect their coverage. You know, Reuters that run a bunch of journalism awards for their very, very accurate reporting. So the courts, let's say, little orange Hitler. His DOJ says, we want to see all congressional data of congressional staffers communicating with Mockingbird media producers. Nope. Section 605, being in this continuing resolution, said, courts are ordered to quash or modify subpoenas for House data. So if a Justice Department under literal orange Hitler wanted to get that data to review it, nope, a judge is ordered to quash it. Now consider the implications of this from a constitutional perspective. This is the legislative branch telling the judicial branch in advance how they will rule on a request for information. That is a massive disruption of the distributed powers, the co-equal branches, each with their own areas of ultimate control. And in the case of the judiciary is theirs. That goes up into the Supreme Court. but it also affects the ability of groups like the FBI to look into just areas of fraud. For instance, Joe Biden, on his way out the door, did you see what he was caused to say, or maybe just decided to say in a moment of lucidity? Maybe he had a bunch of ice cream and Adderall that day, because sometimes they'll give him that Adderall with extra, or that ice cream with extra Adderall, you know, like a debate days when they want him to win. He's come out and said he thinks that congressional members should be banned from trading stocks. He's saying that's his way out the door. They should put that in the budget. They should be banned from trading stocks, just like the executive branch, as if that's affected their graft. So if the House Republicans, say, or Little Orange Hitler wanted to look at congressional insider trading, or the DOJ decided to do that, nope, you're going to have to, that warrant has to be quashed because Congress says so. Third is perhaps the most chilling of this. It's retroactive. So any investigation that's been ongoing and not yet resolved, any existing subpoenas, any existing warrants, they're toast. No more. So, of course, this goes to the heart of the Inspector General report, say, for instance, on January 6th, where we learned that in obvious opposite to what we were told by the paper bully Merrick Garland and the disgraced, now soon-to-be former director of the FBI, Chris Wray, who has resigned, there were federal informants there. 6 of them went into the Capitol. 13 of them went into a restricted zone. None of them were charged. You know, like that feller Ray Epps was not really charged. I mean, he had his little ornamental penalty. So as that report comes out now, let's say that there were subpoenas cooked up on this. There's further investigations. Nope. It's quashed because it's retroactive. Who does this? If you ever come home and your spouse has, wiped all the home computers, you come home and you jump up onto your PC and, hey, honey, where's the recipes? I keep recipes on this computer. Oh, yeah, I wiped all our hard drives. What? Yeah, I wiped them. On all the computers? Yeah. Did you keep any of the data? No. Why? Well, it seemed like a good idea. And you later go through and you open up your credit card statements. How come there's no credit? I canceled credit cards and got new ones and burned the bills. Why would someone do that? Because they're guilty of something. This is a Congress that knows it's guilty. This is a Congress that knows it has committed incredible levels of crime. On what? The funding of wrong sex hormones and surgery into kids' bodies. That's going to lead, and already is, leading to lawsuits. Or a massive war in the most important country in the world, Ukraine, where we are now pouring in another $50 billion in loans into a war we know we cannot win. A war we knew we were starting when we decided to get a NATO country cozied up to the doorstep of Russia, because Putin said, if you put a NATO country on my doorstep, we're going to have a physical problem. Joe Biden said that. That's an example. There's the payouts to the people in Maui. A massive $750, and good luck fighting for the rest. Hey, that's weird. That's disappeared from the news cycle. Are they going to do anything with that beachfront property? Or are they just going to rebuild those tiny little homes there? I'm kind of guessing there's going to be massive resorts. I wonder who's going to build that. Maybe it will be the townspeople of Maui. Or maybe it will be a bunch of consulting projects with, families like Romney and Biden and Pelosi investing. And they might even go in and give people 30 cents on the dollar. These are the levels of investigation they're blocking. They're blocking us looking into their participation in destroying the health care of this country. Chris Murphy is a backbench senator from Connecticut. He is inspired by the guy who shot and killed the CEO of that very corrupt health care insurance company.
Listen, I think that political leaders in this country need to be part of this conversation that's happening all over the country in the wake of the shooting of the United Healthcare CEO. I know that it's fraught. I know that it's uncomfortable, but this is really important. Listen, I'm never going to condone violence. I don't here. I spent my entire life fighting gun violence because I know that the devastation is enormous.
There is an implied but he's about to say, but he doesn't say the word but.
It leaves behind. What I see happening in this country, though, is a real visceral anger that the outrage at Brian Thompson's death or the outrage at the death of any powerful person isn't matched by the anger over the thousands of people who die, often anonymous deaths, every single day in this country.
And he's tying this, of course, to healthcare. I can show you graph after graph of how, as regulation of healthcare has gone up, outcomes have gotten worse. Insurance companies are empowered by people like him. And this Section 605 will make it impossible for us to track down the core perpetrators. No Republican who wants to be considered a patriot can have anything to do with things like this.